welcome back to Music Impossible. We're on to lesson number 11. This is a review, and we're just going to take a bunch of snapshots from all the prior 10 lessons and edit them together into one video just to kind of show you what to expect on the test coming up. Good luck with that. Don't be too stressed about it. Again, these are just building blocks, this first section here. And then as we go forward, we're going to start getting into rhythm and scales and eventually onto triads and chords over the next several lessons. All right, good luck with your exam, and I will see you on lesson 12. And a lot of music writing is centered on the piano. It's easy to visualize some music theory things on the piano keyboard, that the pattern that exists on with the 2 black and then 3 black and then 2 black and then 3 black, that sort of pattern allows us to see things visually differently than just looking at it on music score paper. We can also analyze it and look at it on the piano. And really just want to make sure everybody understands where all of the notes are and how pitch works and things like that. So let's just start off with the musical alphabet. Most of you probably know this. There are only 7 letters in the musical alphabet: A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And once we get to G, we start over again at A. So you may notice that there's more than 7 buttons or keys to push on the piano. So as you go through the musical alphabet going up or down the piano, you will go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then repeat starting with A. Pitch, and pitch is the sound that you hear, and sometimes we hear high notes, and the higher end of the keyboard is to the right. So if I go to the right, we call that going up in pitch. Those are high notes that are played like instruments like flutes and piccolos and violins. Higher end of the xylophones and clarinets would be your higher pitched instruments. And then we consider the pitch to be a low pitch when we go this direction. When we go to the left, this is considered a lower pitch, and your lower pitched instruments would be things like basses and cellos and tubas. Bass clarinets, bassoons are some of your lower pitched instruments. The percussion instrument timpani is a lower pitched instrument. Right there, there's the note A. The note A is in between the 2nd and 3rd black key. Now I will say that the note E, A, is always going to be in between black key 2 and 3. So that's also an A. And I can come over here. We can go over this side. This is also an A. Now we have a lower in pitch A here, and we have a higher in pitch A, but there's still the letter name A. So now, well, the cool thing kind of makes this easy is once you can find A between the 2nd and 3rd black keys right here, you just go in ABC order. That's as simple as it is. So right here, the note right beside A, you might guess it. That's right. It's going to be the note B right there. The music staff. The music staff is the canvas of the composer, of the musician. It is what we build our art on. Everything you see here is super important. Understanding all the little aspects of this little teeny tiny thing with a bunch of lines and spaces. It is everything that's we're going to build on, from reading notes to building harmonies and melodies. All starts right here with the music staff. Now, the first thing you might see here that's part of the staff is this thing called the treble clef. And that treble clef is just that little curly Q thing. We're not going to talk a lot about treble clef. Just wanted you to know what it was since it was there on the screen. We have on the music staff, we have 5 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 different lines. And we always count from the bottom up when we refer to the music staff. The bottom line is line 1. The top line is line 5. That's how we always count from bottom to top. Just like when we go from the bottom or line number 1 up to line number 5 on the music staff, we're getting higher in pitch. Now, there's not just the 5 lines, but we also use the space in between the lines. We call those the spaces, and there are 4 spaces here in the music staff. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, we count from the bottom and going up. Now, in music, when a note moves up or down, it either moves in steps or leaps. And it's pretty straightforward what it means. A step means it just goes one note at a time. So, example here, let's take a look at a step. Let's go to our first space here on the treble clef staff. And we're going to write the note that happens to be the note F in treble clef, or the note A in bass clef. And if we have an F and we want to go up by a step, we're just going to go up to the very next note. So when it moves from a space to the nearest line, whether it goes up or down, we call that a step. So in this case, if we go up a step, we would go to the second line. So the first space to the second line, a space to a line, we would call that a step. Conversely, we can go down a step from this note as well. And we just go down to the first line. That is the nearest line to that space note. When a note moves from a space to another space or line that is bigger than a step, we call that a leap. So essentially, anything that isn't a step, we're going to consider that as a leap. So let's do a couple of examples here. Let's say we start on, let's say the first space, and that's an F in treble clef or an A in bass clef. And let's just go up to the very next space. Space number 2, that's a leap. We skip that line in between. That's considered a leap. Let's say we have 2 notes here. You see how on the piano keyboard, this A and this B, or the second space and the third line, are right next to each other. We learned that that is a step in our last video. And you can see it here visually on the keyboard. They are also right next to each other on the keyboard. Same thing if I wanted to have a leap, I can take one of these notes. All I'm doing now is just skipping any number of white keys, and these are all going to be considered leaps. So we see both notes lit up here in purple. The bottom note here is the A. The top note up here is this F in treble clef. All right, so let's get into this treble clef and find out what in the world we need to do. We know that the bottom line is line number 1. Let's replace that with a note. It's going to be the note E. So when we go up to line number 2, that's a G. So we go to line 3, that's a B. Line number 4 is a D. D as in dog, right? So E, G, B, D. And that top line, that 5th line, is an F. Okay, now if we go to space number 1, that is going to be the note F. Space number 1 is the note F. Space number 2, as we go up, and we're counting from the bottom, space number 2 is an A. Now the spaces in treble clef are pretty easy because they spell a really easy and familiar word. And then space number 4 at the top is an E. That's right. It spells the word face. These are your basic rhythms. And so right now what we see is we see notes on the second line of the treble clef staff. And you'll learn in a minute that's the note G, G as in George. And this one tells us that, well, we need to play a G or sing a G for 4 counts. The dotted half note is for 3 counts. The half note is 2 counts. And the quarter note is 1 count. There is also a rest. A rest is just simply a time where you don't play. And these symbols tell us how long not to play. We have a whole rest over here. And then we have our dotted half rest. That's going to be 3 counts. Your half rest is 2 counts and your quarter rest is 1. So just like their namesake notes, there is a rest that goes along with that. So our whole rest is going to be 4 counts. Our dotted half rest is 3, half rest 2, quarter rest 1. So let's take a look at the notes in bass clef, and we're going to see as we go from top to bottom. Remember lines 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The line number 1 is the bottom line. That's the note G. And as we go up, we have the notes G, B, D, F, and A. And in spaces 1, 2, 3, and 4, we have A, C, E, and G. And we have a couple of parts here of the grand staff I'm going to talk about. This little squiggly line right here is called the brace. And the brace tells us that this is the same instrument playing both the treble and bass clef lines. And you're going to see that with a handful of instruments. Before we do, let's take a look at this other connector that we see right here. This is just called the line. So the different parts there of the grand staff. What kind of instruments do we see? Well, we already know here we created this piano one right here. So piano is a big one. Another instrument might be the organ. A lot of organs are going to have a grand staff. A lot of times with organ, you have the right and left hand both playing on a keyboard, and then you have the foot pedals in organ that play all those low bass notes. So you're going to have the grand staff there. You might also have the harp. The harp, again, plays with two hands, very wide range on the harp. And then there is some pitched percussion. There's two kinds of percussion. There's drums. We know about drums. Drums are obviously like, snare drum or bass drum. And then we have what we considered our pitch percussion, things like xylophones and marimbas. There's some really big marimbas out there that would use the grand staff